Hello and welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. I'm Stephanie Soebbing. Today I've got some really exciting news to share, and I'm wearing my tunic that has Kaffe Fassett fabric on it because I have 5 quilts that are going on the Kaffe Fassett Fall 2019 tour. So we're going to talk a little bit about the quilts, some of the inspiration, and how it was really a team effort to get them all made to go on tour with him, and tell you a little bit. I've met Kaffe several times in person, so I'll tell you a little bit about those stories. And as always, we've got patterns and kits. So if you want to see these quilts and make them yourself, you can make that happen. So backstory first. So a couple days after Christmas last year, 2018, I got an email from the marketing team over at FreeSpirit asking if I would be interested in doing something with a new first ever rainbow pre-cut. If you follow Kaffe, you know he usually releases a dark and a light version. And so this is the first time that really dark light, the entire rainbow, was going to be in one pre-cut. And so, of course, I said yes. And so I had to make everything digitally on my computer in some of our patterns that are pre-cut friendly, and sent them all off, and 5 of them were approved to be on the sales boards, which means when sales reps go to quilt shops around the world, they have projects on them that help promote the fabric and give shop owners an idea of how they can use it and how they can sell it in their shop. So we were very fortunate to be able to be included with that. It was such an honor. I was so excited. And then they asked me to make Modern Trip Around the World to be in the FreeSpirit booth at Quilt Market last spring in May. So of course I said yes to that. And then they asked if we would be willing to make the other 4 to be included in the tour. And of course I said yes to that too, because anything we can do to get the Quilt Addicts Anonymous name out to more people, the more we can entertain and hopefully educate you a little bit in our quilting videos. And these fabrics are just so cool anyway, so it looks really awesome to have them all together. I'm like super excited that I had the opportunity to do this and make these quilts. I met Kaffe for the first time several years ago. It's got to be about 4 years ago now. I was just blogging at the time. I was trying to figure out how to turn Quilt Addicts Anonymous into something that could replace my income. And I was invited to go out when Kaffe was having his work exhibited at a museum in Pennsylvania. And the businesswoman in me knew that we were never going to make enough blog revenue off of a in-person Kaffe interview to be able to cover that trip. But the museum was 45 minutes away from the art museum where Rocky ran up the steps in the original Rocky movie. And my husband is a huge Rocky fan. Like, it was my rite of passage, trial to see if I was worth spending time with, to have to watch every single Rocky movie in order with him when we first started dating. So I worked with my accountant, figured out how we could write the majority of the trip off, and him and my then 1-year-old daughter and I went by train out there. We interviewed Kaffe, and it was really inspiring. It was the first time I had really seen modern fabric in person, and I just came back from that with just so many ideas of what to do next. And I actually, half of the quilts that ended up in my book came to me in the middle of the night on the train ride back from that. And I'll actually link that video down below because I go into that story there in that video, and it's really kind of a fun story. But it was just so enlightening to me and very influential to me as a designer. And back then, nobody knew who I was. We had YouTube, but we weren't doing weekly tutorials. And so to 4 years later, have our patterns be selected to be on the Kaffe sales board and to travel with Kaffe around the country, it's just such an honor. I'm so excited, and the quilts turn out beautiful. So let's take a peek at some of the quilts, and I'll let you know where they're gonna be. All right, so first up is Hillside. This quilt is going to be going to Bear Paw Quilting and Bernina. It is in Idaho. I am not going to attempt to pronounce the name of the city that it is in because I'm gonna murder it. It looks French, and I took Spanish, so it would just sound bad. But check it out. We'll link to where you can know where all the tour is, and you can check it out there if you are in Idaho or near there and you want to go see Kaffe and Brandon in person. This quilt is made with 2.5-inch strip rolls. Moda has coined the term jelly rolls for that, but technically they're not jelly rolls if they're made by any other manufacturer. But any 2.5-inch strip strip rolls will make this quilt, and it's really fun. We've got a video tutorial for it. It is entirely strip piece, even those diagonal ones. What we do is we cut a corner off of the left side of each of those, so that way we have a nice huge staggered strip set. Press everything open, turn it on its side, cut it, we're good to go. So this actually goes really, really fast. This was the first quilt to be completed when we were doing it. We really had a team effort. We had several days where we just brought in the team over at Quilt Addicts Anonymous, and we just had snacks and watched Netflix and quilted with rainbow pre-cuts all day, and it was really fun to see all these quilts come together. I sewed this one together. This is my third or fourth time doing a Hillside quilt, and it just gets easier every time. It's really one of my favorites to do. We do have kits for this while supplies last over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com, but any 2 pre-cuts or strip rolls that you have, you can mix and match with some of your previous cave ones or with new ones. The last one I did with it was also in cave, and it turned out fabulous. But we've got a video tutorial, we'll link that below, and also where you can get everything. For the quilting on Hillside, I just did straight line ruler work on my long arm. It was a lot of stops and starts because when you're working on a long arm, you got to stay in between where the bar is. So I would go as far as I could, going from side and down and side and down. And basically I just started on that straight part, and then I took the diagonal down and I just kept it in line with the piecing. And then I would, when it got straight again, just jog over some more. And that is going to be at Bear Paw Quilting and Bernina again. And then Cave is going to be there from September 26th through September 28th. Next up is Rainbow Layer Cake. This is one of my favorites. It's going to be at Lyons Quilting in Lyons, Colorado, September 30th through Wednesday, October 2nd. And I love this quilt. Josie Sicardi had created this one. She pieced it, and then I did the quilting on it. And it's just great because there's no neutral in this at all. And so the eye moves by going from top to bottom with that color change. And this actually I designed right after I met Cave for the first time. I was really inspired by seeing his work in person and seeing that no neutral was perfectly acceptable. And if you did use neutral, green, hot pink, those are all perfectly acceptable colors for it. So this was one of the first quilts I designed after meeting Cave, and so it was really exciting and kind of full circle to have this be chosen as one of the ones to go on there. This is made with 1 10-inch charm pack and 1 2.5-inch strip roll. In this case, they're from the same line, and I would recommend going with the same line for it. We do have a video tutorial on this one as well. And again, this one was quilted by the lovely Josie at our shop, or pieced by the lovely Josie, and then I did the quilting. I did change threads with each diamond color change, but I kept the bobbin the same all the way around. And I just did straight line quilting. It's pretty arbitrary of where I put stuff, but I just wanted, there's so much going on in this quilt, you really don't need that much with quilting, but I did want to make sure I changed those threads to kind of match whatever the dominant color was in that diamond, so that way you saw the piecing more than you saw the quilting. Next up is Charm Squared, and that is going to Quilter's Destination in Arlington Heights, Illinois. That's kind of in my neck of the woods. And by kind of, I mean I could get there and back within a day. It's definitely about 2.5 hours for me. And I've actually been to Quilter's Destination quite a while ago, but it's a cool shop, so check it out if you can. And that's going to be there Friday, October 4th through Sunday, October 6th with Cave and Brandon. This one is also one of my favorites. It is a charm pack quilt. So you use 2 charm packs to create this and a lot of background yardage. And this one was really fun because when I turned it in, we did a lot of different options for background, and ultimately this green dot was the one that ended up being chosen. And my quilter on it, Shelly Moore, who you can find with Quilt Stitching by Shelly online, she was like, I wasn't so sure about that green, but by the time I was done with it, I really loved it. And she did a great job echoing the background of the dots by having this nice linear design that also had some circles in it. And she did this really fun scroll design within all of the triangles, and they just keep getting bigger as they go out, and so did the designs. It was really, really neat. And she also worked to make sure that the circles within the big triangles for the same size as the circles in the background. So she really put a lot of thought in that. This one was pieced by Melody Allen, who's one of our girls at the shop. I shouldn't say girl, one of the ladies at our shop, and she did a fabulous job with it, and it turned out really great. Next up is Stripping in Paradise. This is the very first pattern that I ever printed that I designed, so that's really exciting. And it's going to be at Missouri Star Quilt Company Wednesday, October 9th through Friday, October 11th, along with Kaffe and Brandon. And so you can see them there, and it'll be really exciting. You can see this quilt. This one was pieced by Melody Allen. She's one of our employees, and it was quilted by Shelly Moore, and you can find her at Quilt Stitching by Shelly online and on Instagram. And they both did a phenomenal job with this. So Stripping in Paradise, it looks more complicated than it is. This is actually the pattern that we use in our in-person beginner class at Quilt Addicts Anonymous, because what we do is we strip piece it first, and then we cut those strip piece into squares, and then we create the half square triangles from there. And the way that they are, the pieces are kind of offset a little bit when they're sewn next to each other, which means there's very few seams to match. So it's very beginner friendly, and it works great with a fabric like Kaffe because it's so busy that it just looks great, and you can just have that color change. You can mix and match all the colors and just kind of have a riot of color. But in this one, we did follow the ombre color scheme. So that way, well, not really ombre, but it transitions from, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, all the way out. And we just kind of worked it in order, making sure that no two fabrics were next to each other. And Melly did a great job piecing it, and Shelly did a great job quilting it. This one, she kind of wanted to play off of some of the florals and the feathers that were in there, so she chose some really cool designs for that, and I asked her to do like a modified custom. So it wasn't like over the top, but that the strip piece halves of the half square triangles had different quilting than the background. And yes, we use green as a neutral. Green makes a fabulous neutral, and you should try it sometime. Last up, we have Modern Trip Around the World, and that is going to Colchester Mill and Fabrics and Quilting, and that's going to be there Sunday, October 13th through Tuesday, October 15th with Kaffe and Brandon. And that is in Colchester, Connecticut, if you want to go check that out. This was the quilt that hung in FreeSpirit's booth at the spring 2019 quilt market. It was very exciting, and this is by far the most popular one that we have done. It just looks so stunning to have this out there, and I pieced this one because if your quilt is going to be in FreeSpirit's booth, like, you gotta have every stitch in that. I was so excited to do it. I just followed rainbow color order when I was putting this together. This is sort of like a modernized Bargello type pattern with an offset focal point. And it really was a lot of fun to make. It actually goes really fast. And when I quilted this, I used Archie and Slim to create those arches and then the points that are kind of going out in a compass-like area to go around it, which I thought was appropriate given that it's a modernized version of the Trip Around the World quilt. This one was really popular when we put out pre-orders, and so we've already sold a lot of these, but we do still have a lot of kits available for this and all of the other fabrics and patterns that I showcased today. You can also get the just the patterns, and you can give it a go with your own fabric and stash, and we will have links to everything down below where you can get it, as well as information about the Kaffe 2019 fall tour, so you can figure out where he's going and if it's close enough to you to go see it, and you can see all the locations where our quilts are going to be as well. Thanks so much for following along. I hope you guys are sharing in my excitement. This is a really exciting time to be able to come full circle from like meeting Kaffe for the first time and being really inspired by him and Brandon and Phil Jacobs' work, to today being able to have quilts that are going on tour with them and being able to work with a FreeSpirit team. They were lovely to work with, and I hope to do it again. So thanks so much for following along, and until next time, happy quilting.